What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Married with Media, and this is day 4 of our 13 Days of Horror. And what did we watch this time?
So we watched
Arachnophobia, directed by
Spiders.
Frank Marshall. I didn't know that, maybe I should have known this, but Steven Spielberg produced this, and Kathleen Kennedy, and that whole gang from back in the day. So that's pretty cool, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess it makes sense why it was such a big movie from back in the day. It just kind of had that Spielbergian push behind it.
Spielbergian.
Yeah, Spielbergian. Arachnophobia. You grew up with this movie.
Yeah.
I did as well. I don't know when the first time I watched this. Maybe I was 7 or 8. But
when did this come out?
This came out in 1990. So, I mean, it's like the same year as like Home Alone. So
right.
I feel like I was pretty young because I remember this movie, certain parts of it definitely having an effect on me. There's certain moments in this movie that I've carried with me for like my whole life, I feel like.
Really?
But I don't know. What's your experience with this movie?
Yeah. So like you said, I do have memories of watching this, growing up. I remember really liking it. Being kind of creeped out about it. It has been a long time since I've seen it though.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting to go back and rewatch those like childhood movies just to see how they hold up for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was.
I mean, you even forgot that Jeff Daniels was in this.
Yeah.
Because you were like, oh, he's in this?
Right.
I was like, yeah.
Pretty much all I remembered was, what's his name? John Goodman.
John Goodman. Yeah, he was in it far more than I remember because I always remember like his character stands out in the movie, but I didn't remember him being in it as much as he was.
Yeah, he kind of like comes and goes.
Yeah, I thought it was just like that moment where he shows up at the house and I always remember the moment where he like steps on the spider and then he picks his boot up. Yeah. You see the slimy spider guts and everything.
The goop, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I'm bad.
So I mean, what did you think of it all these years later? How did it hold up for you?
I mean, like usual, I feel like whenever I go back to revisit those childhood favorites, they don't quite hold up the same for me. I don't know. They kind of lose just that child.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't hit the same for me, which, I guess makes sense. I'm older now. So
yeah.
It's not, the movie wasn't like how I remembered it at all.
There's still some very like tense moments involving the spiders.
Yeah, for sure.
Like in particular, I feel like the second half of the movie, because the first half, like there's quite a bit of spider murdering. I feel like there's a lot of deaths like in the first half, whereas in the second half, it's more like it's like they build up the stakes, making you think that anybody could get killed at any time. I mean, a kid gets killed, which I completely forgot about on the football field.
Oh, yeah.
So they make you think that nobody's safe, that anybody can die. And then they kind of play with that in the second half.
Right.
Like there's the girl that's in the shower and the spider's coming down on her face and stuff as she's in the shower. And they just set those stakes and just make it real tense for the rest of the movie.
Yeah. I totally forgot about the intro. I forgot how, the spiders even like get to the house or whatever. Just all I remembered in my memory was the house being infested by spiders. And so I forgot they came from another country.
Venezuela.
Yeah, and the story of how they got here. So, I don't know, the beginning I was kind of like, I don't really know how I felt about the story of them getting here. I guess it makes sense though.
Yeah.
And I kept telling you, it was really interesting with this one, how they made it seem like the spiders were intentionally making their way to America. It's like it knew to climb into the coffin with the spoiler alert, the dead person.
They were definitely trying to portray the spiders as kind of
having intelligence
and being almost evil.
Yeah, just like premeditated attacks and stuff.
Which was really silly. But to be fair, it is a species that doesn't exist in real life, or at least as far as I know of. So I guess they could just make it up as they went along.
Yeah. And I mean, they didn't
They kind of tried to explain it by saying these are like soldier, like, because they like mate it with the house spiders. So it's like, you got this deadly poisonous spider mating with a house spider. It's like these are like soldiers now or something, soldier spiders or something.
Yeah. And I mean, they didn't do anything like make the spiders have voices or anything.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like super like cheesy or corny or anything like that, but it just felt like that kind of.
My favorite was that they felt the need to show the male and female spider like getting together,
mating. Yeah.
mating. Like they didn't. I don't feel like had to do that.
Yeah.
But they showed them like coming together.
I mean, yeah. Yeah,
you could have just implied that they mated, but they made a point to like almost turn these spiders into characters in the movie.
Yeah, I guess it was like they just wanted that to be the point in the movie where you're like, oh no, there's gonna be more of them. Yeah. So I guess that was just kind of the And then also it was something I didn't remember was, you know, the main character. What's his name again?
Jeff Daniels.
Yeah, I don't know how I don't know him, but I mean, I do know him, but like remembering
Dumb
his
and
name.
Dumber.
Yeah, I was like, that's the guy from Dumb and Dumber.
A lot of other stuff too.
Yeah, but he's been in other stuff too, obviously. But I had forgot that, of course, he's deathly afraid of spiders.
Of course, he has to be.
Is what the title of the movie is called, A Fear of Spiders. So I just totally forgot that he's terrified of spiders. And then also just the, I don't know, I enjoyed the whole, you know, like he's this doctor moving somewhere new.
Yeah.
And there's the old doctor of this small town, and they kind of have this...
the old doctor's a real old prick.
Yeah, they just kind of have this relationship to where...
This antagonistic kind of relationship. Well, I mean, the doctor screws him over. He moves to the town because he's supposed to get all the patients in the town.
He's going to retire.
Because the doctor's supposed to retire, and then he gets there, and he's like, I'm not retiring anymore. So he's kind of stuck, like, well, what do I do now?
Yeah, he's like, I moved, you know, from the city to the country. We bought a house and all that kind of stuff. So, I don't know. There were definitely some layers. I felt like it was a pretty good story.
Yeah.
And...
It's a good story. All the characters are very likable. They're very likable, and you enjoy watching them. I don't think there was anybody that was too annoying in the film. They don't really do anything too much with the kids. I don't feel like they're just kind of there.
Yeah. So that was something else that we forgot to mention. So we're not doing our usual style of reviews. Yeah. Usually we do like an introduction before we watch it and all of that, but we ended up watching this with our kids. So
yeah, we watched this with our kids, and I think it was like the first 10 minutes or so was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, but like our son is not into like anything remotely creepy or scary.
It was the scene where the first guy dies in Venezuela. He crawls up in like the sleeping bag with him, and he looks down and sees him, and he bites him, and then like the process, like it is very like graphic.
Right.
He's like, oh.
You go into like what do they call it? The shock, like. the I don't know the word that.
I'll always remember though, like that moment where they open up the casket and he's all like,
oh yeah,
like zombified almost. And yeah, that always freaked me out when I was a kid.
Yeah, because the spider, crawled into the coffin after the guy was dead.
Yeah, I was like, what did he do? Like, just keep biting him over and over again and injecting him with more poison? Is that what caused that?
Mortician or whatever, he was talking about the guy that was dead in the coffin, and he was like, yeah, it was like something just sucked the life out of him or something like that. Yeah,
which implying the spider was just in there sucking his blood out.
But yeah, I mean, it was a super quick scene when they showed that body, but it was definitely very like creepy and zombie.
Yeah, I just remember as a kid thinking like, what happens? Like, what did the spider do?
But yeah, and then like you said, I feel like the tense moments of, the spider's gonna like land on them or whatever throughout the movie. Like, I feel like those are probably my favorite moments. Like, there's one where a guy goes to sit on the toilet and the spider is under there, and you're just like, oh God, like it's gonna crawl up his butt or it's gonna like you're just like waiting. And then like you mentioned earlier, the shower scene, that was really good because it had built a web by the shower head. Yeah. And she's like putting her hand up there and gets the spider web in her hair, and it like crawls down between her boobs. And like it takes her a second to notice it, and I'm like, just imagining.
Yeah. Or the two girls that are like they're like
they're
doing
playing.
Scary Stories with each other.
Yeah.
And then the spider comes down like right behind her, and they get up at the exact right moment.
Right.
And a book falls on it, and they step on the book and kill the spider like accidentally.
Yeah. Well, they were literally singing the Itsy Bitsy Spider.
Yeah.
And you saw the spider's shadow coming
down. Which I
down.
told you, I was like, I don't know. I can't remember the trailer, but I can almost guarantee this was the trailer to the movie. Them singing Itsy Bitsy Spider as a spider comes down behind her.
Right.
I just felt like a trailer moment.
Yeah.
But lastly, I just wanted to talk about the climax of this movie because I don't know, there was far more going on than I remembered. Like there were so many spiders. There was like 1,000 of them that were taking over the house.
Like that whole scene at the end where there's spiders crawling from everywhere, like in little crevices and through the vents and everywhere.
And honestly, I feel like because this is the first time I've watched this movie probably since VHS. I bought the Blu-ray. It's actually $5.99 right now. And I feel like watching it in high definition, I could just see more, and you could see like every spider crawling all over the house, even when they're like panning out from the house.
Well, I was going to say, to me, so like whenever they would show like the big spiders, some of those definitely looked fake. Like when they would have the like main spider come out, you could tell that it was fake. But for the most part, all the small ones, like they looked like real spiders, and they probably were.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, yeah. So.
And then you got John Goodman shows up. He's going to save the day. Starts spraying them all. But I will say it did go on for a little bit too long. I think you pointed that out as well. Like Jeff Daniels is down there fighting them for like 20 minutes. It feels like because he kills the one. And then there's the nest, and then there's the next one because there's like two of them. There's a king and a queen.
Yeah.
So it does go on for a little bit too long. They extend it probably a little bit too much, but I don't know. What would you score this?
Man, I don't know. What are you gonna give it?
I still had a really good time with it. I still enjoyed it. Again, it doesn't have the magic and effect that it had when I was a kid because I'm just a little bit older now. But I still think it's a pretty damn good movie. And I'd give it a 4 out of 5.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I give it a 4. I think it's still a really well done movie. It just has that 90s charm to it.
Yeah.
It does feel very 90s, which is interesting because it was like 1990, the very beginning. Usually movies in the early 90s feel a little bit more 80s.
Yeah, it does feel 90s for sure.
But this one feels very 90s.
I'm going to give it a 3.5.
3.5?
Yeah.
That's a pretty solid score. That's a pretty solid score.
Still
but that's
a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. Arachnophobia. That's our review of Arachnophobia. We got 9 more movies.
And I was just going to throw in there too. So our kids did end up watching it, even our scaredy cat son.
Yeah,
and
our daughter doesn't ever care. This stuff doesn't faze her.
No, not at all. But I think he ended up enjoying it pretty good.
Yeah, I feel like after we got past like the first 15 minutes, like he got into it a little bit more, and like he really loved John Goodman's character.
He did. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yep. So Arachnophobia. It's a good movie. It's still, to me, I think it still holds up. So I do recommend that you watch it if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
I actually think it's on Hulu. So,
okay.
But that's our review. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, turn on the bell notifications, comment down below your thoughts on Arachnophobia. Follow us on all our social media accounts. Those links are down below. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.